Perfect. Okay. Everybody can see my screen? Wonderful. Spanning generations, acknowledgement of the land is a traditional custom of Indigenous people when welcoming outsiders onto their land and onto their homes. To build respectful relationships, acknowledging the land is an important part of reconciliation. In the spirit of respect, reciprocity, and truth, we acknowledge we are on and support mentoring for youth in the traditional territories across Alberta of the many First Nations from Treaty 6, 7, and 8, and the Métis of 8 Alberta settlements, and the Inuit people, whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries. These lands are the traditional meeting grounds and homes for many Indigenous people for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We are all treaty people, beneficiaries of the peace and prosperity the treaties brought, and committed also to working towards the equity and justice the treaties promised. Today, on October 4th, vigils and events are also held across the country to support family members and loved ones in Sisters in Spirit Day, which is honoring the memories of more than 1,200 missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls across Canada. So welcome. We've already introduced ourselves as your hosting team, and so we would just like you to take a few minutes to type into the chat box your name, where you're from, what your role is, and where you heard about this webinar, and one thing you hope to get out of this webinar. So we'll give you a few minutes and we'll play some nice little elevator music while you do that. Welcome, Tenzila from BGC Bigs. For those of you who might be new to Zoom, your controls are down at the bottom. If you go down pretty much to the middle of your tool panel, you'll find the chat box there. I know some folks use Zoom, some use Teams, some use Google, and they've all got their little quirks. Welcome, Kelsey. From High Prairie, my end of the world. I taught for many years up in Slave Lake, and that's where my home is. Crystal from Stellar, welcome. Lisa, who rushed home nicely, quickly so she can enjoy the webinar from the comforts of her own home. Ashley from Red Deer, welcome, Jim. We've got Elaine from Saddle Lake and Astrid from Sylvan Lake. Maria from CIY or WA, I believe Calgary. Corinne from Big Brothers Big Sisters Grand Prairie. Welcome, Danielle. Another partner from BGC Bigs. Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for sharing. Some of our objectives for today is to share a little bit about the benefits for both the mentors and the mentees. taking a look at some recruitment strategies. We're hoping to give one, take one. So we'll give you some, and we're hoping that you'll share some with us as well as we move through the afternoon. We're going to also take a look at recruiting seniors, adults, and teens. And we're going to give you guys an opportunity to get to know each other a little bit better and share kind of in smaller groups rather than in just one big, large group, so that we can harness all of the wisdom that is in the room today. Sorry, I'm having a problem with my back and forth arrow today. For those of you that are new to Alberta Mentoring Partnership, it was launched in June of 2008 as a partnership that was co-chaired between Alberta Human Services, Alberta Education, and the Boys and Girls Big Brother and Big Sister Society of Edmonton area. We're currently ending phase 3, which has covered our time period from 2014 till, oh, actually, no, sorry. We're going end of phase 5, I believe, is where we're going. And AMP provides support and resources to schools and youth serving agencies. We are hoping that we can continue to share what mentoring provides for our youth, which is a positive contribution to building strong, safe, and healthy communities. AMP has received private grant funding to support mentoring in schools, and thus is where these webinars and Summit 2022 is supported through. And our whole purpose and goal is to enhance adolescent social emotional competencies. We have, but pre-COVID, Carolyn and her partner did face-to-face meetings. We've been hosting lots of online meetings and webinars. Caroline has been busy working to help with resource development, and as always, we network out to be able to have a variety of supporters. Caroline?
So what is mentoring? I'm sure we all know that there are many different kinds of mentoring. AMP's focus is on mentoring youth, so young people. So again, there's lots of workplace mentoring and all of those kinds of things, but the definition that AMP uses is the presence of a caring individual who provides a young person with support, advice, friendship, reinforcement, and constructive role modeling over time. So again, it's intentionally phrased a caring individual because of the idea of team mentoring. So AMP supports team mentoring as well, so not always an adult. And there are many different types of mentoring, as many of you know. So we'll kind of be looking at intergenerational mentoring, the idea of community mentoring, mentoring in schools, including team mentoring. And then we can also talk a little bit about the whole corporate mentoring world. So why would we think about building mentoring initiatives, particularly in schools? It supports welcoming, caring, respectful, and safe learning environments, which is a requirement in our Provincial Education Act. And actually, when those changes were being made, they came into force in 2015. But in the pre-work that was done around those changes to the Act, Alberta Ed did some research around what is it that contributes to welcoming, caring, respectful, and safe learning environments. And mentoring was right at the top of the list and kept coming up over and over again in the literature around ways to support that kind of a learning environment. It provides a sense of belonging and purpose. And right now, I think top of mind for all of us is that positive mental health of students. And we hear over and over again how COVID has not helped that situation at all. And many of our students are struggling as they come back to school after being out for such a long period of time. Mentoring also increases attendance and engagement, which of course results in higher high school completion rates. So lots of compelling research around why we might want to look at mentoring as a school initiative. And then again, that idea that mentors, come in many different forms, many different ages, many different backgrounds. They can be formal mentors or informal mentors to young people. And we know that it really doesn't require any special skills other than caring about children and youth. Which actually means that our potential pool to recruit is very large. So we often hear a lot about benefits to the mentee and less about benefits to the mentor, but there are also many benefits to being a mentor. So there's feeling more positive about your school or your workplace. It increases empathy for others, improves social skills and pro-social behaviors, particularly for our teen mentors. It improves academic achievement, increased motivation, again, for both teens and for adults, enhanced capacity for teamwork, and it really fosters stronger understanding and deeper appreciation around the diversity of children and youth. And again, that's both for our adults and also for our teens who may be mentoring a young person whose background is quite different from theirs. And again, that also is where some of that empathy comes into play and appreciation for those differences and an ability to celebrate those. I love that first one about feeling more positive about their school or workplace. And I know both Al and I were involved in some corporate mentoring when we worked at Alberta Ed, and just to see the people, the adults that were there meeting with the students, and really made me appreciate where I worked, allowing us to do that, and also just seeing the faces of the mentors and the mentees during that time. So again, really positive, really creates that positive sense of team. So since we've come back from COVID, we've been really looking at, in addition to the benefits that we shared, what are some of the benefits that are specific to the mental well-being? And so studies show that mentors report more positive affect, which is attributed to the social support and altruism. And that social support actually comes from the other mentors. So in mentoring initiatives where the mentors have an opportunity to gather and share and talk, they really feel supported. And again, that can be teens or that can be adults. In mentoring relationships where there's a physical activity component, mentors also reported how that was a really welcome break from some of the stressors in their lives. So I think about the Indigenous Youth Mentoring Program, IYMP, and how a lot of their activities are physical. And it's a real outlet and a bit of changing up from what you might normally be doing in your day. The idea of improved self-confidence and improved resilience, again, as a result of the support from their mentor peers and meeting the challenges of mentoring. So being able to meet some of the challenges that arise and problem solve and continue on really helps with that idea of both self-confidence and resilience. So that's an important component in mentoring, particularly when we're talking about teen mentoring, is that ongoing support that we provide the teens and providing them the opportunity, providing those teen mentors the opportunity to come together and share and to talk and to problem solve.
Caroline, I remember when we did the intergenerational mentoring webinar, another benefit that that they talked about was the understanding of ageism. So our teens understanding and getting a sense of what our seniors had gone through within their lifetime, but also for our seniors to really be able to understand what our youth are going through at this point in their lives and in this day and age.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Kim. Also with the intergenerational mentoring, often the mentors will report reduced. They didn't feel as isolated, even if the mentoring was online, that it helped with that feeling of isolation. And especially during COVID, they reported it really gave them a sense of purpose. So for those mentors that continued online, it really gave them something to look forward to and feeling like they were contributing in some way. So benefits to the mentee. So 2 times as likely to have high levels of school bonding, 2 times as likely to have high academic performance, 2.5 more likely to participate in extracurricular school activities, then the reduction in behavior problems, less likely to have conduct problems, and less likely to be victimized or bullied. So some pretty, again, some compelling benefits there. And this was actually came from a Canadian study. So I always like to ask people, are there any surprises there? Anything that surprises you in those stats? Or anything that you want to comment on? And you can unmute or pop it in the chat.
I'm always, I see something new every time I see these stats, Caroline. And so that correlation between being 2 times more likely to have high levels of school bonding and then the decrease in the behavior or the conduct problems, you know, because they feel like they're connected and they have a safe space to be in or a safe person to go to. You can see how impactful that is.
And Kelsey, surprised at the 2.5 more likely to participate in extracurricular activities. I thought that was a really interesting one to measure. And is that because of what we saw around increased self-confidence, that they have more confidence to join extracurricular school activities? That is, you know, that's a really interesting one to think about. And I relate that back to that school bonding, that when people feel like they belong, they're probably more apt to engage in things that are happening after school instead of just wanting to go home and not stick around. So again, lots of reasons why, when we're looking at perhaps getting into school to do some mentoring, lots of good information to provide those schools with to kind of make a case for mentoring. And when we look at the mental well-being benefit, again, research shows that that mentees feel heard and listened to, and I think we know that we all want to feel heard. And sometimes in our busy days, adults don't always have a lot of time to listen and for our young people to feel heard. I just think about, as a mom and my daughter, there were some days where I don't think I did a great job of that. So it's always helpful to have somebody else in that person's life where their whole time is about them and they do feel listened to and heard, and they're not competing for airtime with anybody else. Again, the mentees feeling less isolated. There's a decrease in anxiety, increases hope for the future, and increase in sense of belonging and acceptance. So again, if we think about some of the mental health concerns we're hearing about from schools, they're often related to this, that idea for a lot of students, the anxiety of coming back to school after being at home. And that's sort of tied into that idea of belonging and acceptance. Just on, I was going to mention there, sorry, Kim, there's been a lot of really successful work done on transitional mentoring. So I think about that anxiety and the sense of belonging and acceptance. So what I mean by that is when students are moving from one school to another, so that could be from grade 6 in an elementary school to grade 7 in a junior high, or perhaps from grade 9 in a high school, or 9 in junior high into a high school. What some schools are doing are they're looking at connecting grade 6 students with grade 8 students from their feeder school, and having that start sometimes as early as right after Christmas. And those students meet together, once a week and spend time usually in the school that they're going to, so the junior high or the high school. So they start to get comfortable in that setting. The older teens or the older students will, ask them what some of their fears are. Maybe they teach them how to use a combination lock. Maybe they do some scavenger hunts around the school so they get to know their way around the school. And then when that student comes to the school in September, they already have somebody that they know. So it could be a cool grade 9 student, or it could be a cool grade 12 student. So a familiar face and somebody that can help them out or that they can go to. So that's been really successful for a lot of students that have more than the normal anxiety around switching schools. Okay, Kim, I'm done now. Sorry.
No worries. I think I need to just pop out of here to make sure I got my sound on here so that we can make sure you can hear. We've got a little video here to just show you examples of mentoring and benefits.
For just $67, you can make as many videos as you want.
My
and you
tip
never need
for
to pick
getting
up a
rid of
camera
the
or use
ads
any
didn't work.
fancy
At Alberta Mentoring Partnership, our vision is that every child or youth who needs a mentor has access to a mentor. Our mission is to grow sustainable mentoring across Alberta through a shared services approach. Mentoring offers the power to transform lives and make a difference.
Lori's been my big sister for 6.5 years. I care about her and I think about her mostly every day.
Every single moment you spend with that child, it's an investment in our kids' future.
Kids tell me that their mentors are their best friends. Kids say that it's the best part of their week, or it's the reason they come to school on Wednesday because their mentor's coming. So there's always lots of positive feedback from our kids about what they love about having mentors, and especially teen mentors who are invested in their lives.
I like being mentored because if you ever have problems, they can help you. They're always there for you and they're really nice. I'm glad that I have a mentor.
There's been tons of research out there that has been done that supports the benefits from mentoring children and youth. Things like better attendance at school, more connected to school, better relationships, less use of drugs and alcohol. So it's a proven strategy that works, and so we needed to make sure that Albertans knew how important mentoring was for kids and youth.
When I was in school mentoring, we played board games, talk about school, careers, and all that, and about like sisters, family, about stuff that my sisters don't talk about. It's important to me because it's to have a good friend.
I have a big sister, and it's cool to have her because she's just really fun and she gets to meet all my friends.
She's just such a cool kid. Like, she's just awesome. She brings out the kid in me, and I'd like to hope I bring out something special in her.
It's a win-win situation. It positively impacts both parties in the relationship. It adds to the sense of community, to the sense of being connected to community. It builds self-esteem.
I just think that knowing there's someone's there, I feel better about myself. And it's not just thinking that you're on your own, that you do have someone else to turn to.
Couldn't ask to be a volunteer with a better run, better organized organization, that every single person involved in the organization cares.
It doesn't matter what you're doing. There are so many kids out there that need a mentor in their lives. This is so important. When a child knows that you're there for them no matter what, it does powerful things.
For training and support materials, as well as more information on how you can be a mentor, start a program, or find a mentoring program that's right for you, go to www.albertamentors.ca.
You're muted, Kim.
Happens every time, doesn't it? Caroline and I've done a bunch of sharing of information and most of the talking up to this point. So we would like to give you a chance to connect and discuss what's happening in your mentoring world. And so we have some questions to guide you as we split you into breakouts. So after seeing some of the benefits, do you have some ideas about who you might recruit as a mentor or as a mentee? How could you see your organization working with schools to recruit teens? And what recruitment strategies have you used in the past? So you can either take a screenshot with your phone or on your computer. We'll stick these into the chat box as well so that you have these. Shannon, we'll get you to put the groups together. Let's say 5 folks in a group for, Caroline, should we go for 15 minutes to start or 20?
Yeah, let's do 15 and see.
Okay, so we're going to break you out into rooms for 15 minutes, have a great discussion, and then we'll check in on you and see if you need more time.
And when you come back to the large group, we're going to ask you to put some of your amazing ideas into the chat so we can share them out.
Yeah, you should be asking, it should ask you if you want to join the room. Looks like people are heading there. I'm just going to pause the recording. Crew, I'll be...
This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome back, everyone. Just as we were getting ready to pop back in here, Dale had asked me a question about mentoring in the schools or out in the community, a combination of both, and I kind of got cut off in my last little bit. So Dale, it can happen in both locations, within the school, out in the community. For teen mentoring in particular, it's usually we like to try to keep it within the schools. And then we have what we can call formal mentoring and then informal mentoring. So sometimes when you're working with organizations like Big Brothers Big Sisters, it becomes more of a formal process, but there's opportunities to do informal mentoring. And I know Caroline's been involved in some informal mentoring projects in some of the schools that she was in. Okay, so let's do a share back, but we're going to do this a little bit differently. We're going to create a chat waterfall. I don't know if anybody has participated in one of those before. Just have everyone jot down 1 or 2 strategies that they heard in their breakout room that they felt that everybody in the larger group should be aware of, and don't hit enter just yet. Just type it in, and on the count of 3, I will have everybody hit enter, and then we will see all of our ideas waterfall in. So just take a minute to to type out your strategies that you heard from your group. If there are any others, just hit enter now in your chat box and we'll see what we have. Perfect. Pop-up recruitment events, career sessions, info nights, word of mouth, informal or casual conversations highlighting strengths, utilizing intergenerational mentoring, giving kids a reference for their resume for being a mentor, high school credits, word of mouth through school liaison workers, social media, community partnerships, outlining the importance of the benefits to both the mentors and mentees. Caroline, I believe you received an email from one of our partners who had some information that they wanted to share as well.
I did. So this person, it's Heather from Big Brothers Big Sisters Calgary, who was unable to come today, but she was talking about specifically around teen mentoring and how they've been looking at recruiting new school partnerships for a variety of reasons. And so for organizations that are looking to partner up with a school to do mentoring in school, what Heather was saying was effective with one of the school districts was to connect kind of at a higher central office level and get some support at that level before going to the individual schools. So they connected with the director of learning services. And so if every school district, probably their structure is going to look a little bit different. But they started there, and then when they had her support, then when they contacted individual schools, there was I wouldn't say a warmer reception, but it added some credibility to their conversations about getting involved in schools. So, and also what they've done once they've gotten into the school is going to do little info sessions through different homerooms to talk to the students in a bit of a smaller setting versus, bringing 90 or 60 students together. That going homeroom by homeroom is often a more effective way to go than trying to talk to a huge room full of students. So that's one of the things that they found effective as far as working with schools and getting in there to find teen mentors. I think when we look at kind of what we find in the literature, a lot of what's there has been mentioned in the chat. I was just looking at the brochures on restaurant tables. That's fabulous. I know another strategy, and I didn't use this for mentoring, but for volunteers for another organization, is thinking about where do people, if you're looking for adults, where do adults who have some time on their hands go and hang out? So I put up some posters in private gyms, so not rec centers, but the private kind of fitness clubs in the city. And they were happy to let me put posters up, and actually quite a few mentors came through that way. And one of the fitness facilities actually asked if I would like to do a little kind of coffee chat session so that people could come and get a little bit more personal information. So that was actually pretty effective if you kind of think about where in your community are those people hanging out. And they might be restaurants, coffee shops, wherever that might be.
And Caroline, we had a little bit of conversation about how difficult it was to get male mentors. And so maybe Al can share about his experience at the golf course this year, because you just mentioned the places that you hang out. So Al had a similar experience this summer.
Yeah, I play men's league down at the Victoria Public Course in Edmonton, and there's a driving range that's attached facility-wise. And when I went over to warm up one day, there was a group of young Indigenous students from a downtown Edmonton summer program. So I started talking to the adult that was with them about mentoring, about the programs at AMP, and it made me think about, there's a lot of guys in our club who want to work with youth and assist with that. So it got me thinking about having more programs coming down there and having guys from the club volunteer to just be with these students. They were just swinging the club. They didn't really care. They just wanted to hit the ball. And you could bring somebody over just to kind of talk them through. So just talking with guys around the club, they really jumped on that idea because students were coming down, so they could just kind of warm up and hang out with them for like an hour now, just a little while to kind of have some fun and kind of make that connection. So it's really quite easy to make those matches in a very informal, formal way, and then kind of formalize it as you go along. But I love that gym idea, Caroline. I can almost think of a whole group of people at my gym that would be really good mentors that I just really never thought about that match before. So I'm gonna run that idea by our gym owner and say, hey, let's do one of those chats on a Saturday morning, the drop-in time. So good thinking, thanks. They're a lot more fit. They're a lot more fit than the golfers are. The golfers aren't really on the fit side of things.
I noticed too in the chat, there's lots of kind of that idea of word of mouth. And again, that comes up over and over again in what you read about effective recruitment strategies. And, not to get to the point where your friends don't want to talk to you anymore, but even getting using some of your friends' connections or talking to your friends about where are they with other people that potentially could be mentors, and doing, a little spiel there. Also, if you can find a mentor or a former mentor, or sometimes even a mentee, to talk to people as well, that can be really powerful, a really powerful way to kind of get people engaged. And sometimes our high school students might relate better to another high school student, or maybe to somebody who's just graduated high school, talking about what the benefits are, than, for example, if I stand up in front of them and talk about it. So if that's a possibility, that can be really effective as well.
Caroline, you mentioned those little information sessions for the students, having information sessions for staff and all staff, from your secretaries to your educational assistants to your bus drivers, having those little information bits and really focusing on what the benefits are to both the mentor and the mentee. They might know some kids, or they might have a connection with a kid who could benefit from having a mentor, and having all staff kind of support And in the situation where you might be connected with a student, but you don't have the time necessarily to do the mentor, you could do the soft handoff to either the organization or the person in the school who's doing the mentoring to kind of help with that transition.
And when we think about looking for teams to mentor, the wider net you cast, the better. What we sometimes find is if we always go to those leadership students, you know, to the ones that are involved in all kinds of different things, you know, are really high academic or highly athletic students, that's great. What we sometimes run into is they don't have the time. They might be really enthusiastic about the idea, but the reality is they may not have the time to commit to it. So again, that idea about being really clear about what this is all about and what expectations are. But often our students that may not see themselves as leaders or may not see themselves as mentors, so if we just put out a call, if you're interested, come, they're probably the ones that won't come, but they can often be some of the best mentors. So again, thinking about a really wide range of students, and when we think about what the benefits to the mentor are, you might be able to think about some students that would really benefit from that kind of an opportunity. And really, you know, as long as they are, you know, somebody who is caring, that's really all they need to be, caring and, you know, able to make that kind of a commitment to be able to meet with somebody. So, and, you know, as Kim said, with the staff at the school, they might be able to help identify who some of those teens might be that would be great mentors. And again, like Kim said, usually if it's somebody who has a good relationship with that student, they'll be more receptive to the idea than if it's somebody who's not. So again, thinking about those teens is in a different way can be really helpful, and you can get a few more, you have a bigger pool to draw from. And I think too, post-secondary, if we're looking for some, you know, younger adults, there are some opportunities to maybe approach them post-secondaries. And again, faculties like education, child and youth work, maybe social work faculties might be a really rich ground for finding mentors to come into schools to mentor. And often they have student associations, so there might be a way to get in through their student association.
Thanks for that, Caroline. I know that Sarah, who is also part of our AMP team, has been doing our engagement and outreach, and she has connected with some of those student councils or student unions at those post-secondary levels, and they're very eager to learn around about mentoring and the benefits for youth.
You know, and then that, I mean, obviously, if you're looking at an intergenerational kind of initiative, looking at what is available in your community. Are there seniors organizations that you could approach? Often retired groups. So for example, there's the Retired Teachers Association. So there's other kinds of groups like that you could talk to, advertise to. And again, what I've seen happen with the intergenerational is you get a couple of people, and then again, it's word of mouth. And they start inviting their friends because they're finding it so much fun and so beneficial that they bring others. I'm really dating myself, but it's like that Fabergé commercial about you tell two people and they tell two people. And most of the people on this call probably weren't born then. But anyway, that kind of strategy. And, you know, as it says here, really, when you know what the goals of your program are, you can really start looking at who you're looking for as mentors, and that can help focus where you want to look. And yeah, again, oh, go ahead, Kim.
I was just going to say, so if your goal is to have an informal mentoring rather than the formalized mentoring, really knowing your goals does help to frame it in terms of what it looks like within your school, and then what kind of mentors you want to bring into the school during that time. So if it's a reading buddy program, or if it's a social well-being type of focus that you want to have in on, as long as you're really clear about those goals, then you can articulate that when you're out there talking to people.
And again, that idea of the commitment that you're looking for, I think, is really important as well. So that's right up front and out there, as well as the benefits and the supports and the challenges. I don't think we, I don't think we want to sugarcoat some of that, but it's that idea that there may be challenges, but there is that support. And that's huge for the teams. In the team mentoring initiatives I've been part of, the teens' fears are often around them not knowing what to do, or what if I'm asked a question and I don't know how to answer. So again, really stressing the supports that are going to be in place. And often in those kinds of initiatives, the teens all meet together with the adult that's coordinating it once a week. And so they can debrief, talk about how things went. They know who they can go to on the spot if necessary. But again, that support really comes into play. And what the research says is that's key in a successful team mentoring program, is the amount of support we provide. I also know that's true in intergenerational mentoring situations. So Kim and I know of an example where some older people were mentoring in an elementary school that was it's kind of an inner city school. So the students' backgrounds were very different from the mentors' background. And there needed to be some support provided there for the mentors to understand where these mentees were coming from, and to be, and to not be frustrated with some of the responses that they would get from the students that they weren't expecting. So some support and also a bit of education there. And again, that's where that comes into that empathy, and you learn about more diversity, but there was some teaching that needed to happen related to that. So again, oh, go ahead, Kim.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say the time and resources, and often it's that the human part of whoever is doing the recruiting. And when I think about school-based initiatives where you don't have the luxury of a mentoring organization, it really is important to have more than one person. You might have kind of the one championing it, and then to have a buddy who's going to help support you, because it's a lot of work if there's just one person. So trying to round up some allies that can help you with some of those things, particularly the recruitment and perhaps the support.
Caroline, some of our spring webinars that we hosted, we had bus drivers and educational assistants join us, and they wanted to know, how can we get involved? How can, we help? So when you're talking about finding other people in the school, it doesn't always have to be the teacher or the administrator or the family school liaison worker. You can reach out to your secretary staff, or your janitorial staff, or your EA staff. Really, it's just somebody to kind of help to share that load. And yeah, we were quite surprised that the passion that was coming out of these ladies that joined us in the spring, and wanting to move on with those.
And again, that sharing success stories. So I know a school that was, they kind of had their electronic newsletter, and they would post something on there every month about the mentoring that was happening. And sometimes it was something from one of the mentees, or sometimes it was something from one of the mentors that they would highlight to just kind of keep it top of mind. And again, sometimes it's those personal stories that really hit home with us more so than perhaps our, really pretty brochure. Not that those aren't important. much.
I've provided some useful links, and we will make sure that you get the PowerPoint at the like a PDF version of this so that you can get the links. We'll also share those as well. Anything that's been added into our chat box with you post webinar. Go ahead.
You know what, Kim? No, it's okay. I'll talk about it when we get to the resources.
Okay, sounds good. So this is the start of our resources that we'd like to share with you. So Alberta Mentoring Partnership has Indigenous mentoring tools. We also have a fabulous Indigenous mentoring lead, Tanya Tourangeau. Perhaps Al, you could throw her contact information in the chat box for us, as well as the link to the Indigenous mentoring resources. So she took a longer tool that around considerations for mentoring Indigenous children and youth. It's a very long guide, and she's actually broken it up into 3 resources and I'm modeling one of them here because it really talks about how do we engage our Indigenous mentors. And so what you'll see is some statistics, and then you'll see some considerations, so you can go back to the bigger guide to find out more information in there. So in it, Tanya talks about building local awareness to reach potential Indigenous mentors. So we just talked about, tagging different organizations, but she's talking about tagging specific Indigenous organizations in social media posts, and then networking, and then getting to any of those powwows or gatherings or conferences that they might have. Develop your communication strategy with a focus on your Indigenous youth. Tanya is a great resource if you have any questions on how to get this up and started, anything that you might want to consider. So between Tanya and the AMP team, we can certainly get you started in that area. Another resource that I shared, and it's further down in the chat box, you'll have to scroll up a little bit, is Everactive has the IYMP, Indigenous Youth Mentoring Partnership. So you can take a look and see what they have to offer there. Okay, there you go, Caroline. Oh, you're on mute.
Thanks, Kim. So these are some of the tools and resources that AMP has. They're specifically, these first ones are specifically around teen mentoring. So there is, in the framework for building mentoring relationships in schools, there are a series of appendices, and one of them is a resource matrix. So it really is helpful because it gets you to look at kind of what resources are available within your school that could be helpful, and then it kind of goes out from there. So again, when you're thinking about mentoring and starting something in your school or in your organization, you can really narrow down who is in your community. So for example, if you're looking for adult mentors, often service clubs are very supportive of mentoring. So it can help you think about what service clubs are in your community or what seniors organizations are in your community. So it's a really nice kind of framework chart, even if you don't fill it in, to just get you thinking about it. And even within your school, if you're looking at recruiting teams, even thinking about that and where might you recruit? Are there sports teams that you might want to recruit from? Are there clubs that you might want to recruit from? And again, your colleagues, and can they think of students? So it's just a really good framework to use to help get that, help thinking in that kind of frame. And there's also another resource that isn't on here. That's the resource for building community mentoring initiatives. And in that resource, they have they've separated out different types of mentoring, and under each type of mentoring, so it might be in school, it might be corporate, they have a section on recruiting that's specific to that particular type of program. So that's another resource. They're all available on the Alberta Ed website. And there are sections in there. The Teen Mentoring Toolkit also has a recruitment section with ideas for recruiting. There's also templates in there. So, you know, there's like a template of a permission form that you might want to send home for a student who wants to be a mentor or who wants to be a mentee. There's other templates that would provide information around what this is going to look like and what exactly is it you're going to sign up for. And all of those templates are in Word, so you can customize them for your particular situation or your particular school. And I think for organizations that are reaching out to schools, and I'm sure that the people from those mentoring organizations that are part of this will have tips. But again, I think that the tip that came from Calgary about who do you approach at the district level can be really helpful, as well as who do you approach at the school level. And I think we all know relationships matter. So, you know, if you have any connection with anybody who works in a school, that's often a really good place to start.
Caroline, we also have the online mentor and mentee training. So earlier you were talking a little bit about sometimes our kiddos or our mentors don't really know what to expect. There's the online mentor training that you can go visit at albertamentors.ca, and then the mentor training currently is just a PDF document, but we're getting it up and going so that it will be an online resource for you as well. And then at the bottom, you'll see the teen mentoring portal, and we're trying to resurrect this. So when this work first started pre-COVID, Caroline was able to meet in person with groups, and then it was a way for them to remain connected. And then through COVID, it kind of died off because I think people were just tired of being on their screens. And so we're resurrecting that. And so in the next week or so, you'll get an invitation to join the portal, and it'll be an area where we can have conversations looking for resources or sharing success stories or just reaching out to somebody in your area. So if you are in the Okotoks area, who else might we know about, or might others in that environment know that could help you out as you're going through your recruitment pieces?
Kim, when you were talking about training, the High School Teen Mentoring Handbook is also a great resource, which kind of will go a little bit deeper into some of the topics that are part of the online mentor training. And while it was in part designed to support the career and technology studies courses, it can also be used outside of that. And it just has really good information for our teen mentors to understand more about their mentees. There's lots of information in there about kind of developmental stages and what might they expect from a mentee who is a certain age. Lots of good tips on communication. So it's another really handy resource. And in fact, even it could be a really great resource if you have post-secondary students and others who are starting to mentor. So that's just one more. And then I did mention in the breakout that there are, for people who aren't aware, there are career and technology studies courses. So there are 5 one-credit courses that high school students can take and get credit for their mentoring. And there's actually a session about those courses at the October 20th Mentoring AMP Summit, which is probably a good segue to the what's coming up next.
Before we get there, we're going to ask for some feedback from this group. So Caroline and I are always looking for ways to improve our webinars, but also to know what kind of information sessions you would like us to support you with your mentoring initiatives. So if you could take a couple of minutes to fill out our survey, you can either use the QR code or the link at the bottom. I'll get Caroline to throw that into the chat box so that you have it. And we'll just give you a couple of minutes here to take time to fill that out.
Kim, I'm going to have to try and get out of here so that I can get to the, anyway. Okay, Kim, I'm not sure if that's the right one because I had to go out of here to get the link. So it's very long. Oh, there we go, Kim.
There we go.
Thanks. The shorter version.
Thanks for taking the time to do that. If you have any resources that you would like to share with the group, just toss them all in to the chat. As I said, we'll share this chat, the PowerPoint and the recording of this afterwards. Caroline and I will stick around for some questions after our webinar is done, but we'd like to share with you some of our upcoming events. So one of our big events that we have coming up is the AMP Summit 2022, Omantiawak. Let's bring our best. So it's really about wrapping ourselves around our youth. We have youth sessions as well as sessions for adults. So we have Caroline will be doing a session on youth voice, as well as a session on earning high school credit. We have another presenter who's going to talk about starting your own mentoring initiative. And she's got a great example of how they did a mentoring initiative between a grade 1 and a grade 8 class virtually. And what she learned through that piece. Tanya Toronjo will be doing a sharing circle around some of the resources. We have a youth panel where we will have 3 or 4 amazing youth around from around the province that would share what it's like to be a mentor and a mentee and the benefits that they gained from that. And we have the wonderful Dr. Leona Makokis, who is our guest speaker for the day, and she's going to be talking about exploring mentorship through the lens of identity and belonging. And we're really excited to have her join us for that. Our next mini webinar that we're going to be hosting will be highlighting stories from the field in November, and then a resource spotlight for teen mentoring in December. And if you go onto our website, or if you sign up to get the Mentoring Minute, which is the AMP newsletter, there's some Indigenous mentoring events that Tanya's hosting. She's hosted 2 Knowledge Keeper series events so far, one with George Deserlet and another one with Adrian LaChance, and those recordings are on the website if you want to take a listen to those in your free time, or just alongside when you're doing some other planning or work. So we'd like to know what your one takeaway from today's webinar is. So you can either unmute and share orally or throw it into the chat box, but we would like to know one of your takeaways from today. Thank you, Kelsey. Everyone can take away, provide some support in terms of mentoring. Ashley likes the idea of advertising in different hubs, putting up posters at places with adults who have extra time on their hands. Caroline, Al, and I would like to thank you for spending your late afternoon, early evening with us. We hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week and a great Thanksgiving. And if there's anything that you would like to stick around and chat with us about, we'll be here. And if you need any other assistance, please, there's our contact information. Please reach out. Have a great evening, everyone.